I'm doing another one of these pajama videos. Except I'm not in my pajamas. I'm wearing my real clothes. Kind of messed up. And I'm in my office because I'm standing up because my standing desk is stuck in the standing position. I wanted to talk about Flathub a little bit. Flathub-as-a-Service, but probably not how you think. Partly because I've been thinking about service a lot in the past few days. I've been digging holes to level a cabin at a children's summer camp, which is a nonprofit, and then another nonprofit that I volunteer with rents the camp. And so I was volunteering there. And you dig these big holes under the cabin, and like you jack it up, and then you dig the big hole, and then you fill it with gravel. I have the damaged thumb to prove it. And this is really thankless work, right? It's like not literally grave digging, but it might as well be grave digging. I mean, oh, that's macabre. It's a children's camp, but you know what I mean. You're digging big holes. And it's important to do this kind of thankless work because the building will last another 20 or 30 years, maybe longer. And it's useful for the kids. It's useful for this other nonprofit that I volunteer with. It rents the camp and uses that cabin. But nobody will ever know the 4 or 5 people who were out there digging holes. And it's not necessarily important, but it's important that the work gets done. And I think that Flathub is a similar kind of thankless work that, like, it's really, really important that the work gets done. And it's really difficult. And so Flathub came up with a stricter LLM policy recently. And it's not because Flathub takes a strong opinionated stance on AI or LLMs or any of that stuff. It's because they were just getting absolutely spammed with garbage. And then the people who would create the garbage would come in and act all entitled about their app not getting, added to Flathub, as if though that was some sort of right that they had for some reason. And I mean, there are all sorts of infrastructural things to fix here, and that will take its own thankless work to, abstract away some of the Flathub application process, so you're not talking directly to the Flathub maintainers, because the Flathub maintainers are by and large volunteers, and you shouldn't just have like their home phone number or whatever. And at the moment they kind of white glove everything, which is amazing. You get better service on Flathub than, or at least I've had better service on Flathub than I've ever had on the App Store or the Play Store, for example. But we live in this time of like divisive language, and it's a cliche at this point, but divisive and hurtful language, where you get people on both sides taking really extreme points, really extreme positions, and saying hurtful things to people. And I saw something unrelated by somebody who works helping finance the open source ecosystem on LinkedIn, of all places, today. And that person was basically like, I'm on the receiving end of like really hurtful, I was on the receiving end of a really hurtful email today. And, I just wanted to like call it out. And I think that that's really useful. It's useful just to say that you've been hurt. You don't have to call the person out, and this person didn't. Call the attacker out, but like say like, hey, I've been abused. And then it's useful for us to kind of look at ourselves and look at the extremes that it's tempting to be drawn into, like this extreme where you feel entitled to criticize other people and their work and their choice of tools. You don't have that right? Like, it's not up to you to tell other people how to live their lives. And by the same token, the people who are using those tools, it is not their right to like just blast into the Flathub Matrix channel and like yell about the fact that their junky app they threw together in 2 weeks isn't being accepted into Flathub. Both of these extremes are unhelpful. And I think it's really hard for people at either end of the sort of LLM usage curve, like the people who are, you know, really, really gung-ho, and they probably work for an agentic AI startup or something. And they're just grinding through like, you know, $10,000 worth of tokens a month. They're kind of producing a lot of garbage. Maybe they're probably not submitting it to Flathub, but like there are a lot of people that I know who are in this kind of category. And then there are a lot of people on the other end who are either not touching this stuff at all, or they touched it once 18 months ago and they walked away from it completely. And they're angry about the rest of the curve as though it's somehow a binary. And most of the people I know are not on the bottom end of the curve. Most people I know are somewhere along the curve. They're using LLMs for review, or they're using it for security, or they're using it to write documentation, or they're using it to spike something, even if they still write all the code by hand, or they're using it to write code and then they review themselves. But I think that it's important to make a little bit of space and to allow the people on that curve the agency to figure out where they want to sit on that curve. Like they may come down the curve and use less, or maybe they'll walk. Some people I know have walked away from it completely and just like decided they don't want it anymore, or programming is joyless with LLM assistance. I mean, there are all sorts of choices to be made, and it's kind of the beginning of the process of making those choices. But collectively, as like an ecosystem full of people, we need to allow organizations the agency to make the choices that they need to make. And if an organization like Flathub, I realize Flathub isn't really, it's not a legal organization. It's a group of folks working really hard just to keep the lights on. If they need the break that a strict LLM policy provides them to get away from just being attacked by people who are submitting just a barrage of garbagey apps and wasting their time and wasting, resources, both financial and like temporal, right? Then that organization should have the agency to do that thing. And whatever timeline that like prohibition survives on, as consumers, I think we need to be a little bit thankful that service exists at all, and that the people behind it are providing the service that they are to us. Like a lot of those people are volunteers. Most of those people are volunteers, and it is a huge service they're providing. And so, I don't know, I would encourage folks to take a minute and think about that. I think everybody is tired, right? Everybody's tired about the politics and all sorts of other things, but like AI, LLMs, whatever, this space is very tiresome, whether you're a part of it or whether you're outside of it. It's exhausting. And so recognize that a little bit, that like other people are tired, and some people are really tired, right? Because they've, if you've been supporting these systems for ages, it becomes even harder in the face of like essentially automated attacks, which is what these things are, to just have like slop request after slop request. And so it becomes difficult for the legitimate people to fit in there. But they'll figure it out. Please be patient. I think in a similar vein, Adrian Wolf had a post on Mastodon the other day that I really liked, and he was like, you may agree with a free software project's technical choices, you may disagree, but if you want to create an enemy out of something, there are enemies, right? Like there is an enemy. It's out there. It is pervasive, proprietary, rude, badly designed, privacy violating, disrespectful software. Like it's not just about the licensing, right? It's about the way companies and nonprofits and governments hold themselves accountable, and the kind of products that they produce or encourage. And I think that there's a weird opportunity now. We can use this time as an opportunity. There is an opportunity for people to share some warmth with each other. It can be a difficult time. And so there can be some camaraderie and team feelings amongst people who are engaged in the free software community, or are users of free software, or participate in the periphery. However you are involved, to be supportive and to give other folks a bit of space and try to show them some warmth. And, let people live their lives. Let the organizations that are supporting the ecosystem do what they need to do to get by. Better to have a Flathub that you disagree with today than to not have one at all tomorrow, I guess would be my position on that. So I do think it's also worth considering that contributions to open source, to free software, are in their own right a kind of service, right? I mean, in the XKCD comic and whatever, but that it's a kind of hugely beneficial public service in the sense of like the word public servant, right? Like you have people who serve society, and free software and open source serve society. And so by building free software, that is a huge service to the rest of humanity. And so as people are doing that, give them a bit of space. Give yourself a bit of space. If you're a participant, if you're a contributor, if you're a hacker, and give yourself a little pat on the back. I think it's a strange moment to try to embrace, but I think we can. Yeah. For whatever it's worth coming from me. Okay. See you later.